Right, it's back to the bows, or one bow in particular. It's a bit of a saga, this one. I had a guy contact me to see if I had a suitable bow, and I remembered this old one that was a bit scruffy, and I took it down to about the right weight for him, and it ended up slightly underweight. And I shipped it to him, and he said he'd really want one a bit heavier, so I made him another one that he was really happy with. And he liked this one anyway, but then he noticed a very slight raised area that sort of snags, you know, if you wipe it with a cloth, and was a bit anxious about it. And I said, well, ship it back and I'll put a patch on it. And that's where we are. So I thought I might as well actually document it all nicely. Now if you look, there's lots of good thick sapwood there. So it may well be perfectly right anyway. There's the centre line by the arrow pass. But as it has raised a very slight splinter, you can just, you know, snag it with your fingernail. And there are the knots there. We don't know how much sapwood there is, you know, covering that area. There's plenty on the side, but how big is that swell of heartwood? Well, I've seen it on bows before, where, you know, where they've failed, I've cut across a cross section and the heartwood's bulged up, sort of like the magma in a volcano, if you like, and severely compromised the sapwood. So what I'll do is I'll pick out these knots, I'll chisel a sort of long narrow strip and let in some sapwood. Now where do you get sapwood? You get sapwood from all the scrap that you saved from your previous bows. Now I've excavated it a bit, and you can see it goes quite deep. Doesn't really show me a lot yet. I don't know if you can see the sort of crack across there where it looks like the splint. There's this sort of splinter trying to lift. There's a line there that goes to about here, so obviously that's going to have to be chiselled out. So it's probably going to be quite a wide section laid in. I'll chisel away at that and see what it reveals. And if I go down quite deep, it should give us a cross section of the heart sapwood inside there. That's the tool I use for digging it out. It's just a ground down little warding file or needle file. You get them from Toolstation. You know, some of them, you get a couple of useful ones and several that aren't particularly useful. You can snap the ends off and grind them into useful tools. I've got one cut into a little chisel. I'll use that one first, then I'll open it out with a sort of wider chisel shaped one. There, as I start digging in, you can see there was the main sort of knot, and there's a tiny one there, but in fact that tiny one has got a sort of core of manky wood in there, so it does need digging out. I'll progress. So you can see I've got a reasonable depth of sapwood this side, and the knot, you know, the rot doesn't extend too long. But this side, there's no real depth of sapwood yet. I still haven't taken out the whole knot. So what I might end up doing is effectively removing this whole side of the sapwood, and I'll probably have to go a reasonable length. It's no good having a patch that's just that long, it will just pop out. You've got to have a good length of patch to give you a good long glue area. So what I'll do is I'll dig that out till I've got rid of all the raised heartwood. Then I'll carve down a nice smooth scallop of sapwood, just have a nice line down the middle, and from probably about here to maybe about here, you know, 4 or 5 inches. Let's think there's, you know, a 50mm, a decent length, and we'll just let in a nice bit of sapwood, not too thick, probably, I don't know, 4mm thick, something like that, or the sort of thickness you'd want your sapwood to be on the side of a bow. Now obviously I don't want to completely remove all the sapwood, but we'll keep digging out that knot, see what we get. I mean, I might not go full width, we'll see if I can get away with it, yeah, but perhaps back to about there. But it's going to be quite a wide, I might have to grind up another chisel. I'll just show you my, that's one of my chisels. That was a square warding file ground down. There's my other one. There's my little one. And there's my big one. In fact, I think I've probably got a 1/4 inch, you know, pucker wood chisel somewhere. If I can find it, I can use that, or I can buy one, or grind one up, whatever. Right, that's the scoop cleaned out and finished, well, as far as I know at the minute. And I've cleaned it at the bottom using this, just a cheap flat file that I've ground on the tip to give me a cutting edge, so I can clean up along the bottom. It's hard to get it very clean where the knot is, because of course it's hard, but at least it's good clean solid wood now. And you can see I've not removed much sapwood either end, so hopefully that won't be a problem. It's just at the middle where it's nearly all heartwood, there will now be a good solid strip of sapwood. And it might not have failed anyway, but the chap wanted it done and it was something interesting to do. Of course the danger now is that under tension the patch will lift where it meets the parent wood. So I need to maybe think about, do I make that longer? How do I fade the patch out? That's the tricky bit. Actually gluing it in the middle is easy, it's the fade out that's the tricky bit. Do I take it back to a natural sort of discontinuity? But you think, well, am I moving one problem to join into the next problem? Yeah, always tricky. If you look at the shape of the bow where the patch is, this is bulge. So ideally I want my sapwood patch to match it. Now I've got a couple of candidates. There's a couple of slight bulges there, and there's a nice one there. But of course it begs the question, why is there a bulge? And the answer is, well, because there's knots. But I could try cutting it out and see, you know, see if the knots are in the sapwood, or see what it looks like. I've got another piece here. Now that looks a very nice match, but again we've got a couple of pin knots. But what I'll do is I'll saw out a couple of pieces and see which looks like the nicest match. The old attention to detail again. Right, I've roughed out a couple of potential pieces, but of course where you've got a bulge because there's knots, but it looks like it's alright on a sapwood. That's one bit, and the other bit turned out to barely have a bulge at all. But I'll carry on with those two, take them down and see which fits the best, which looks the most promising. Now I've been trimming down my insert to go in, still much too thick, and I've just used a profile gauge to see the depth I need to go in at the highest point, and you can see I'm still too thick. So it's a matter of fiddling that down until it's about right, gluing it in. Now that's about as good as it's going to get. It's a whisker short at at that end. Hopefully I can just blend in the sapwood. It'll need clamping down good and hard, and hopefully it will look relatively unobtrusive. Bit of a gap there, but it's very hard to do something like this and get it totally perfect. I can't actually get it any better because I haven't got a better bit of view. I'd do it again, or I'd go back in time and not cut quite so much off the length. But where you're gradually whittling things down, comes a point you've got to cut it to length eventually. Now I'm clamping it from the middle, working outwards, and you can see the patch is slightly shallow there, but it'll blend in, and I'll be squeezing any glue out this way. Won't know what it's like until the clamps come off tomorrow, really. Well, it's the next morning now, so let's take these clamps off and see what we've got. Well, that's not bad. I hope it's gone deep enough there. I'll rasp that down and we'll have a shifty. Well, that's it lightly tidied up. You can still see a couple of areas where there's cambium, so it needs to go down a bit. But I'll probably use the scraper now just to carefully blend that in. Yeah, quite pleased with that. And there it is, all blended in, and there's no Danish oil or wax on it yet, but it gives you an idea. There it is viewed from the side. And it's not perfect, but it's pretty damn good. Better than I anticipated. I think you still see a few sort of tool lines in the back, but you can see them anywhere at other areas. So it's in keeping with the rest of the bow. The only real question is, will it stand up to being shot? Well, I'll probably shoot tomorrow with it. Anyway, see how it shoots tomorrow.